Caroline. I'm working for life sciences. We work with individuals, teams, and organizations across the world to become more agile, innovative, and impactful. And I'm actually working in a self-organized company, and that comes with its own challenges and beautiful learnings that we also bring into our work day in, day out. And today, we're going to talk about, as Hemerson said, and actually building on.
Let's change.
Give me back my box. And we're actually building on what Tim already started to talk about when it comes to skills, to capabilities. Setting the scene there a little bit couldn't have been more perfect, I think. And talk about what makes organizations and people thrive. So what do we see in the workplace these days? Then have a sneak peek into reality. So how is Roche having their huge experiment actually going there? And then talk about your next move. All right. So as said, we're working with various different teams and organizations. And over the years, we have collected our key success factors that we see how companies thrive. I'm sure there are many other factors that you would bring to the table, but these are the four that stick out to us the most. The first one is plan ahead. I said in my little introduction that we're working with companies that want to be more agile, that maybe even thrive into the self-organizational space. And what we see very often is when we start working with them is that the conception of agility sometimes means not being so organized or not planning. Maybe you also have heard the phrase, yeah, no problem, we're agile. I'm sure you have heard that. And that is actually a really big problem because agility doesn't mean that you're not planning anymore. It just means that your planning horizon is different. And once you have a plan or a strategy where you want to go with your company, it's key to make sure that your employees understand where you want to go, that you really bring people along and that they understand the direction. Next up, have the right people, and we heard it, everybody wants the right people. The thing is, once we have these highly skilled, amazing, great employees, these talents that we really want to have, we also need to give them space. We need to give them the space to take responsibility, to do what they can do next. And for this, we need structures in place that actually enable them to explore and show their true talent. Moving on, the third one is have an orientation point. And I'm not talking about a fluffy, nice purpose statement that means everything and nothing, has really everything in it that you can imagine, all the buzzwords. I'm not talking about this. Meaning that teams and organizations truly understand why they exist, and that individuals and teams, especially in bigger organizations, understand how they contribute to the overall success. So thinking about Roche, I mean, you have countless teams. How to make sure that each of these little teams understand what is their impact in the bigger picture. And then, last but not least, have the right mindset. And here we talk about treat your team like humans with resources. Sometimes it slips through the tongue when we say, well, we're understaffed, we're not having enough resources, we need more people, we need A, B, C, D, E, but actually really, allowing and really actually saying it also verbally, because language is so powerful that the people that we work with are not resources. They're humans that come with resources. All right, now that we have that, and given the fact that everything is changing, the environment is changing, we need to be more innovative. So what are we going to tell these teams? think outside the box. I'm sure another phrase that a lot of you have heard or even said in the past. That's actually a picture that I took last week in Greece. It was sprayed on the wall of the school, and I just thought it was a coincidence. These boxes are considered as something to think outside of, to be innovative, maybe to be brave and come up with a complete new, unique way. And as there is nothing really bad with this concept, let's explore what this really means a little bit more. As we said, and Tim also talked about it in his presentation earlier, humans have so much more than a fixed job description. We come with capabilities, experiences, good and bad, with hobbies, interests, values. Just because Hemerson and I step into the company doesn't mean that we're suddenly different people. We're still Hemerson and Caroline that come with everything that we learn, everything that we do in the outside world, and we bring all of this to work. And this is wonderful. This is beautiful. And we have this little box here. And this box is nothing negative. It's actually more like a pattern of thought, a system. And we need this. We need systems. We need frames to operate in, to think in. That's why I think outside of the box is such an interesting phrase. So if we see our people just connected to a fixed role description, we miss out on a lot of potential, a lot of things that they bring, just because we see them as one-dimensional beings. And it's interesting that there are already a lot of cool platforms that can be used, and we'll see in a moment how this already looks in reality. So when we think about collaboration then, we need to have an understanding of who am I as a person. So I need to understand what is inside my little box. What are the capabilities, what are the skills, just to have this self-awareness. Then, to make it a little bit more complicated, once I've understood my own little box, understand what other people bring, what are their systems look like, what do they bring to the table, and then, once we have piled all of this up, what is actually the things that we're working on? What's actually the box that we should be thinking outside of? If this is not defined, if we don't know what we should think outside of, how would we do that? So we have a couple of barriers that we stumbled over the years, and I'm sure a couple of them sound very familiar to you. Getting back to the box, this lack of goal clarity, this transparency, really knowing what's going on. You would be surprised how many teams are not sure what they actually are supposed to do. How does definition of done look like? How does success look like? How do they know they have failed? How do they know they succeeded? So that's one big barrier that teams might stumble over to. Then poorly defined roles and responsibilities. If we think about a team that works in an innovative space, that has different phases. A project has different phases, and that means that also the roles and responsibilities that people have change over the phases. Constantly reminding themselves about that, understanding what am I doing, what are you doing, is super important. And with this also comes decision making. So who takes the decision? Are we empowered to take a decision by ourselves? Is there an external that takes the decision? Is it a leader? Is there a bottleneck maybe? Also, the big and famous communication and information flow. It can be too little, it can be too much. Finding this right balance is key. If we want to be this big outside of the box thinkers, it comes with a lot of unknown space. And unknown space can be uncomfortable. It's exciting, but it's also uncomfortable at times. And to find the right balance is important. And again, here, the clearer the box is that the team should be operating in, the better. coming to diversity, we all want diverse teams. Every company wants to have a diverse workforce, but that comes with its own challenges. And if people don't feel valued for their diversity of thought, for what they bring to the table, it might lead to not having enough trust or safe space. This might lead to relationship issues. And lastly, if we're not able to have a conflict, a healthy debate about things, we're not going to move far, because good teams, successful teams, highly performing teams are not the teams that love each other and, you know, everything is shiny and happy all the time. Successful teams are the ones that are able to work with friction, that have the ability to address conflicts in a healthy manner and understand that only if they do that, they will move together successfully. So these are a couple of barriers that need to be kept in mind. And my colleague, Dr. Sclaventi, did some research in 2020, and her takeaway from that is my reality is just different than yours. So keep on reminding yourselves that we're all having these little boxes with us, with our patterns, our experiences, and so on. And it's an ongoing process to realign these different realities and realign these different realities within the space that we're working in. And then second of all, leadership is not a given. So it's a constant journey to seek for direction, to work with one another, to think about what are we prioritizing next, how do we move forward, and if we have a team that is self-organized, this is even harder. And if you're overwhelmed with everything that's happening, because it's innovative, it's so much, it's exciting, you enjoy it, you love it, to keep this in mind all the time is a lot for teams. Well, moving from this to how it looks like in reality, I'm going to move and hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you. So 15 minutes for us to take a sneak peek on reality. So it's going to be really a glimpse inside this box. I'll put here for now, Caroline. So our purpose as a pharmaceutical company is actually to deliver 3 to 5 times more patient benefits, and by that reducing the healthcare burden to society by half. So it's not an easy and simple goal. That invited us to revisit our boxes and take a deep look inside, and probably we have to rethink those boxes and reshape and reform. That's the story I'm going to tell you, our journey to get there. Thank you. We are used to look into that type of structure on the right side. This is a traditional, very famous example from Professor Rob Cross explaining the difference between a formal organizational structure and a network structure. So we're very used to the structure on the right side. We know who is the boss. We know what are the lines of authority and command. We put colleagues inside jobs, and we put those jobs inside departments. So we know that accountants are doing accounting, even though maybe his accountant is a public speaker. We cannot tell from here. And the relationships that Mitchell has, we cannot tell which collaborations he forms. We cannot tell who he developed trust and who trusts Mitchell. On the left side, though, if we could open that box and look inside, and if we could find out what are the trusted bond relationships formed inside a company based on work or organization, or by that matter, friends, that develop inside the company, we would have a very different understanding. So we still do not know if Mitchell is a public speaker working in the wrong department, but we know at least that Mitchell, whatever Mitchell is doing, it's very important for nearly everyone in that company. Nearly everyone is connected to Mitchell by a trusted bond relationship that was developed through work. Maybe also what Mitchell is doing is needed as information to everyone in different departments, because now the functions are blurred. We actually cannot see the departments anymore. What happens if Mitchell takes a sabbatical? How is lower the work gets? And what if Mitchell decides to leave the company? What would happen? Mitchell is also the only boundary spanner connecting the blue cluster, which was the production department, to the rest of the company, right? And if you want, invite Avery, the pink one, to join your project, and you know Mitchell, and you know that Avery trusts someone that trusts Mitchell, what's your path? So a lot of new insights and information become available by unboxing the true relationships that exist in a company. So we set to do exactly that. We did a network analysis in 2020. We involved 13,000 employees in 89 countries. We had 90% participation. So that allows us to understand very well who trusts who goes for inspiration, who goes for career advice, who is able to rally teams even though they have no formal authority, who is the center of collaboration in certain clusters, and who builds the bridge between these collaboration clusters. So that unlocks a lot of understanding that was not available, and it's not available by the formal structure or looking only into one type of box. So one of the first things we learn is that when you ask people what the topics they're collaborating with others, we're not only asking Caroline who she's collaborating with, we are asking Heike who she's collaborating with and which topic she's collaborating with, and she's going to point to Caroline. And she'll mention the topics they're working together. So when we group that information and we cross-reference with the job families, we could see that nearly everyone in all job families, especially those in the central collaborative clusters or they are building bridges between clusters, were collaborating beyond the formal job structures, the formal job families. So basically, yeah, jobs were just a fiction that enabled people to be in a certain space, but in the end, they were collaborating way beyond those job families. Those relationships were developed based on this extra teams collaboration. One thing that we would then ask is, how is then the level of autonomy that they have? When we look at that, we can see that we had already across the board a high degree of autonomy. So the red line represents the benchmark. The lower the number, higher the degree of autonomy. This index goes between 0 and 10. 0, very high degree of autonomy. 10, low degree of autonomy, almost none at all. When we aggregated the degree of autonomy of the employees, we could see that across the board, we are way below the benchmark. So a very high degree of autonomy means that colleagues can choose the work that they want to do at a certain degree, of course, but they have a very big autonomy on choosing the relationships they form, the collaborations that they develop, the alliances that they form. That's not steered or controlled by the management. Neither first level, neither second level, neither any level. So we had a very suitable environment, let's say, to rethink, what if there is no job? What if people are able to choose freely what they want to do? And if we give autonomy to those key collaborators to actually form teams? Then we did a deep look, even deeper, on this endless box, because 4%, only 4% of the employees without formal authority, no management role, are able to rally teams or are inspiration for many employees. Disproportionately high amount. I would say these 4% are able to reach 90% of the organization through their trusted connections. So we interviewed half of them, so 250, and we asked, what is the secret of your collaboration? Well, how do you do it? How do you actually rally people to a vision, even though you're not manager, you don't have authority, you don't have resources, you don't approve budgets, and what would make your work better? So we got consistent answer and a pattern that we decide, let's scale. So instead of creating structures, let's remove these structures. So what they said is that anytime they want to rally a team, the first thing they do is they think about the outcome and the impact, and they make that outcome impact very clear. The second thing they said is that they break down those big challenges in executable tasks or activities, and they think who has the skills or capabilities to do those, and they don't think about structure. They just go and try to reach the public speaker that is in the accounting department, because they know that person has that skill and has that passion. So we said, okay, anyone can rally a team as long as there is a clear outcome that is defined, is broken down in work packages, and these are prioritized. But that must be made transparent to everyone. And the second side, the other side, to enable fluidity of those people, so they can go to the work that they have passion on. We basically officialize what is happening. People work in multiple projects. So yeah, so you can work in any work package or any project you want, as long as capabilities are made visible to all. Capabilities and skills, like here we are using interchangeable. Not perfect, not perfect. People then can flow to the work they choose to do. And they make a commitment on that activity to deliver to their peers and to the customers. Could be internal customers or external customers. So the commitment is no longer to the manager, is to the peers and to the beneficiary of that value. Also, this side, they need to make all transparent. Because transparent is fundamental because it generates accountability. And also provides information that enable better decision making and enable people to make decisions that improve their lives. Now, if I work in the accounting department and I'm a public speaker, I can see opportunities where I can apply that skill and I can go to that opportunity because it's transparent. And before was not. Same way, the other way around. Now we see people have skills, capabilities, but also the trusted bonds that develop, and we can reach out to those people to invite them to the vision we have, and they can join our team. So 1 year later, not knowing how we're doing time, we had over 2,800 employees, which represent 20% of all working population. That is equivalent of creating fluidity for twice the size of our biggest affiliate in Europe, which is Germany. So these 2,800 employees contributed to 600 self-managed teams. Self-managed by definition because this team is formed not by a person with a managerial authority. Anyone can form and rally a team as long as they have a clear outcome and a clear impact. So we estimate, probably overestimating according to the Coinbase, that if we had to hire these people, train them, and consider the attrition costs, that would be costing us around 360 million Swiss francs in the space of 1 year. And all these without putting any additional structure, any management, any resource manager that makes sure that people are going to the right work, trusting that people will make the right decisions when they have information available. Now, we can see these bonds forming in a real time. This is not real time, of course, because we couldn't put videos, but this is a representation of these relationships that are formed through work out of these 2,800 colleagues. Every dot represents a person. Every line connected these dots represents a relationship built through one of these work packages or these outcomes. So it's still not perfect. We can see clusters that are still formed. They're isolated, but we can see also, and anyone can find, who are the people that connect these clusters to the other clusters. So if I want to understand more what's happening in UK, I know now who to reach because that person has connection with 90% of the colleagues working in UK, or 60%. So these dots become people that are very relevant for knowledge exchange, experience, and insights. When we compare with this data to the 2 years ago, 2020, beginning of the pandemic, we can see an increase of 4 times on the channels for exchange of knowledge, expertise, and insights and innovation inside this population. So, but we are moving on. It's not perfect. There is a lot to learn, and there's a lot to improve. And we are moving on. But what's your move now, right? Caroline, what's the next move? What's inside the box after all?
Yeah, let's check out the last slide. So before we let you go into your well-deserved coffee break, we have 3 final thoughts for you. And that is all about making your own move. What could you do in your organization? Starting with move on. So understand where your teams are, understand what is the current reality in your organization and the different realities of the people that work with you. Then move over. So basically what Hemerson was talking about, removing barriers. So as said, structures are good, but there are a lot of barriers and structures that are not serving teams and individuals, and they prevent them from thriving. And then last but not least, move around and start to have your learning journey. Just like Hemerson said, it's not perfect. It never will be perfect. Nobody has any idea what the future will bring. You know, we all don't know. If we would know, we would be insanely rich, I think, having the silver bullet of knowledge, how the future will look like. But keep on learning, keep on implementing these small learnings and create the best fitting work environment for your context, because what might work for one team might be a complete different thing for another team, might be a complete different thing for another organization.
Thank you. It's awesome. What's inside the box after all?
Well, let's have a look. What's inside the box? Yeah, we just practiced throwing the box. We didn't practice opening the box. Yeah. All right, what's inside the box? It's actually a quote, and it says, "It's not enough to think outside the box. Thinking is just the first step. We need to get used to act outside the box." And with this, enjoy your coffee break.
Thank you.